one. Hello, guys. Welcome back to my podcast. Oh, do I have so many stories for you today? Great stories, actually. It's been a month and it's been an amazing, transformative, fun, I'm very passionate. This past month has been an eye-opening experience for me on a personal level, on a professional level. It's been fun. It's been nerve-wracking because today's episode is all about how I quit the 9 to 5. So how I quit a 9 to 5 job. I'm still working. I'm just working 3 jobs at once. However, it's more flexible. So it's taken months of me to finally get off my imposter syndrome, I guess I would say, and just trust the process and my abilities. But it's been a ride. So I'm sharing everything that I've learned, everything that I'm going to keep learning, because if you have an aspiration to start your own business or quit the 9 to 5 or just learn from my experiences, this is the episode for you. I'm so excited to share everything. I'm going to try to keep it as short and sweet as possible, but y'all know me. If you don't know me, I have the gift of gab, so I can't guarantee that this is going to be less than a 30-minute podcast, but we shall see. For those that don't know, if this is your first time joining, my name is Haley. I have been doing this podcast on the side for a year. I'm really excited for this year. I actually have so many people that want to come on the show. But my name is Haley. I'm Powerful Hippie on YouTube and Instagram. I'm uploading podcasts to Spotify and YouTube. So if you don't have Spotify, I'm on YouTube. Everything should be free for you. I also have a discount with Redcon One, which is a supplement brand. It's also available at Vitamin Shop and Amazon, but it's also on our website. And I do have a discount code, just Powerful Hippie, all together at checkout. You can save 20%. We have so many products, and our probably number one bestseller is either between the protein or probably the pre-workout. There's so many different pre-workouts. And also we do have a fat burning supplement. It's a capsule-based supplement. We did used to have a powder, but they discontinued that for whatever reason. I think maybe it's because it was a little bit on the bitter side, because it did have some added stuff to help with suppression of hunger levels, but it's a little bit on the bitter. But I liked it. I like the flavor, but I'm weird. I drink apple cider vinegar and lemon juice and water because I know it's really good for your digestive health and just in general. And it's usually horrible tasting, but I drink it and I'm like, it's fine. You got to get over the discomfort. And that's really what my mantra is this year, because when you can trust, just like everything in life, right? When you can trust that things might not be comfortable, but you are learning to accept the uncomfortability, the discomfort, if you will, then you will grow. Bottom line. I mean, you have to work through it, but you can grow. So that's my spiel. But who am I? What am I? Well, I have a lot of skill sets. Some people think that I'm crazy, and that's fine. I've heard it a lot. And, there was definitely some imposter syndrome getting over becoming into my new career path, which is fitness coaching. I have been a competitive athlete as a power lifter. I have been a personal trainer. I was a personal trainer in person on the side a few years ago after COVID, after teaching. I'm going to get into all my jobs and credentials, but I just did it on the side. So I never thought about it being a long-term viable career, but it is something that I so love. It's my favorite job that I've had, bar none. So credential-wise, I have degrees. I actually have a 4th degree. She's missing. It's my associate's in arts degree. I got that right after high school. I finished my AA, and then I went to Florida State and I got my bachelor's degree in studio art. Originally, I was going to be an interior designer. I wanted to go into interior design. That didn't work out. And why didn't it work out? Because it was a limited access program and they only took 12 people. And I want to say we had 20 people in our class, and I was after number 12. I believe I was number 13. It's just my luck, right? But I didn't love the program. It was more architecture, and as much as I do appreciate architecture, I wanted to go into design and more on the creative art side, not necessarily the scale side of things and building. I took AutoCAD. I got an A in AutoCAD. I'm sharing all of this just to show you where my life has gone. So just stay with me. I'm painting you a picture because I've done a billion things. I'm only 30. So I'm all over the place, but I figured it out, guys. I think I figured it out. So after not going into interior design, I pivoted to studio art, thinking that, okay, maybe I'll go into museum studies, or maybe I'll go into art history or graphic design. I don't know. Which studio art was a composition of all of that. So I did have to take a lot of art history classes. I did have to take studio classes, so like drawing, painting. I took a graphic design class. I didn't do the best in graphic design. I got a B. I'll take it, right? I actually did better in AutoCAD than in graphic design, but like graphic design is just too much. My professor at the time, we learned at least 5 to 6 different softwares in the course of 4 months or less. So that was just a lot. It was a lot. Like you could spend a whole semester in just Photoshop, and we just barely touched the surface of Photoshop. So yeah, and then I loved ceramics. Ceramics was my favorite. If you can't tell, I'm very passionate about art. I'm still an artist. I'm still an art person, obviously. So I'm gonna get into that. But ceramics is something that I should have pushed a little bit harder. But then I had to take other classes because after I finished my bachelor's degree, I was only at Florida State for 2 years. And I love Florida State. I'm a Seminole through and through. My dad went there, my grandmother went there. So it was just cool to have that legacy spirit. My family loved, me going there because we got to go to football games and stuff together. So it was just such a good camaraderie and such a great experience. I loved it so much, and I'm not a partier. No, I would go out with friends, of course, but I didn't go out every week because just like you can get burnt out. And I'm so into health and fitness that it's not even the alcohol. It's just like I need sleep, recovery. I'm kind of a weenie, and even though I went to a party school, which Florida State is quote unquote a party school, I wasn't that. Trust me, I really wasn't that crazy. So I didn't go there for that. I went there because I just loved the school. I loved the vibe, and I kind of met another tribe there when it came to powerlifting. I assimilated into the powerlifting community because right before I finished my bachelor's degree, I really started getting powerlifting, found out that we had a powerlifting club, went to a few meetings, became addicted to it in a good way, right? I just loved powerlifting. And then I started working at the gym there, which is Capital City Barbell in Tallahassee. And that's where the FSU weightlifting, now they're a team sport. They train there both for powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, and just a great time. And at that time, I was like, I don't want to leave. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I don't know what I'm doing. I've only been in college for a couple of years, remember, because I'd only been there for 2 years because I already had my associate's degree, which was like the first half of your bachelor's degree for 60 credits. So I just needed another 2 years, got that, didn't want to leave. So found out that when you are doing a bachelor's degree at Florida State, they will actually let you add on just one more year for a master's degree. It was like I think 5 semesters-ish. No, sorry. I can't do math. No, I think it was 5. It was either 4 or 5. It was fall, spring, summer, fall. No, I remember. It was summer. Yeah, it was 4 terms. So it was summer, fall, spring, summer. So it was 4 terms, which really isn't bad for a master's degree. What they did though is they pulled in some of my credits for my bachelor's degree, married them with my master's degree. So I was like thinking, oh my goodness, a year is not bad for a master's degree. And I didn't really know what I wanted to get a master's degree in, but this was art education, which gave me the idea, okay, hey, if I don't want to become a graphic designer or an art historian or a museum curator or X, Y, and Z, I could become an art teacher. My dad was a music teacher. Shout out, Dad. We love you. And, a lot of my friends were teachers. I thought, I like to teach, so why not? So I got my master's in art education, and it was so great. I learned a lot. And I had an internship. I was actually going to start teaching at an elementary school in Tallahassee that I was doing my internship in. But then my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, my boyfriend at the time graduated a semester before me. He graduated in the spring, and I wasn't graduating until the summer. So he got a job in Lakeland, Florida. So we moved to Lakeland, and luckily my last term, the summer, was just like my my thesis term, if you will. So I was just basically writing my thesis that entire summer. So we moved to Lakeland. My husband was able to start his job. I was able to finish my master's degree, my last term online. Then I graduated that fall, so I graduated in August. But that summer, while I was working on my thesis, I wanted to land a job because you don't want to come out of college without a job. So I started looking around for jobs. I was in Lakeland, Florida, which is Polk County, and there were not a lot of art teacher jobs. And I wanted to do elementary school. That's just my vibe. I do feel like the littler, if you want to call them littler, or the younger kids or students, they kind of enjoy art more. They don't feel like it's a bore or a chore, and they just kind of go there to have fun. They have better attitudes. Because I also interned at a high school, and half of them loved art, and the other half were just there hatching a chair because they just needed the credit to graduate high school. And I understand not everybody loves art, but I just don't appreciate people that at least don't try to make an effort. So that was my biggest thing. But guess what? The only job I could find after my graduate degree was in a high school. Oh, great. So I started teaching at Kathleen High School in Polk County, right, literally a week or two after I finished my master's degree. Also that summer, I think this whole podcast is going to be a sob story, not a sob story, but just like my why I decided to quit the 9 to 5. It's not been the easiest path, and nobody's path is easy, but like mine was definitely horrible. But I rolled with the punches, and that's why I think I'm so lucky and blessed right now, if you want to call it that, because I worked my buns off. That summer, I think we moved there in May, and I was, doing interviews and stuff at schools. I got the job offer in June-ish, but that classroom, holy God. Okay. I'm very OCD and neat and organized. That classroom had stuff from like 1984 in it, bro. It was so gross. My parents came and helped me clean that classroom out. My husband came and helped me clean that classroom out. I mean, I was on top of finishing my master's degree. I was cleaning that classroom. That was all before the school year even started. Oh, once the school year started, yes, management classroom wise, every class, every period, I had like 6 classes was different, and I had a whole class right after lunch. It was just like 32 students right after lunch, and they just would bounce off the wall. So it was a hard year, and I had to just do the best I could. But that year was 2019. Guess what happened in March of 2020? Sorry for the trauma. The global COVID-19 pandemic. So then everything went online because nobody knew what to do. No school district really had a plan for what would happen if there was a global pandemic and students couldn't come to school, or they had to quarantine at home, or they didn't even have the electronic access, the computers. Like, what are we going to do? And basically, since they were in high school, if they participated at all throughout that year, not just the semester, but the year, as long as they got a C, they were able to pass and graduate. So that's kind of what we just did. ? And that was how I rounded up my very first year teaching. So after that, my husband and I were like, you know what, we don't really love Lakeland. And not to say that we want to quit this place, but we were just like, all right, let's move to Jacksonville because we have family close by. I liked Jacksonville. It was close to the beach again. And I'm from the beach. I'm from Cocoa Beach area, Melbourne, Florida, but it's like near the beaches and stuff. And I was just like, all right, let's just move to Jacksonville. So we moved here. I got another job at a middle school, but unfortunately COVID was still very much a thing. So I didn't have a classroom because they needed the space at the school, and I had to wheel art on a cart to each class. And it wasn't horrible. I mean, I had less behavioral issues. Middle schoolers were a little bit more respectful and at least pretty nice, but still didn't have a planning period, hardly 30 minutes. I had to teach online and in person, and I had to eat lunch with the students. So I barely had my own break right throughout the day. And I just felt like babysitting rather than teaching. And I had to have a heart-to-heart with myself. And I said, I can't do this for another year. I am burnt out. We got sick. COVID-19 was still just a horrible experience. So I was looking around in my area, and the only other option I said to myself was, all right, well, I'll think about higher education. Well, even with a master's degree, 2 years now of teaching experience, nobody would give me a job. I applied to different colleges in Jacksonville, was really just bent out of shape. So what did I have to do? I had to take a pay cut, a salary cut of almost $10,000. Yes, I was making almost 42 as a teacher. And then I believe I started at One Stop at like 32 to 35. I can't remember. But I started working at University of North Florida in Jacksonville as a one-stop academic advisor, basically. And a one-stop, it was a coordinator, but now they're advisors, because you don't just do academic advising and registration, you do admissions. And most of the brunt work is financial aid, because financial aid is just tricky, so tricky. So I did that for a year, but I realized I loved advising students, and I didn't really love financial aid and admissions as much as I loved record registration and stuff. So I applied as an academic advisor, and I got the job there at UNF again, and I did that for almost 2 years. But my husband got another job opportunity. We're young in our careers, right? So we're still kind of figuring out where we want to go, what we want to do. But Jacksonville is like the biggest frickin' city in the country, literally. So even though we were in South Jacksonville, almost towards St. Augustine, that was almost an hour commute to where he got his job opportunity. And with traffic is a bear. It's like Atlanta. If you know, in the Southeast, the Atlanta traffic is horrible. Jacksonville traffic is probably number 2 or number 3 behind Orlando/Miami. All right. Jacksonville traffic is no joke. And I was done with it. I was getting fed up with it. I hated having to leave the house an hour early to just get to work. And I know, sob story, right? But the gas and the reality, it just was feeling horrible for my mental health, physical health, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was just so tired of it, and this was before we even got a dog and stuff. And again, this is me being real with you. I could not see myself doing that for another 2 to 3 years, so why would I waste my time? I'm sorry, maybe I'm impatient, but I think I'm more of a realist. I was just not happy, and I think it was reflecting in my job. And I don't want to make the people around me miserable because I'm miserable. That's my fault, right? So I had to take myself out of that, and I looked for online gigs, and I found an online academic advising job at SNHU, and I did that for over 2 years. Loved it. I really did. I learned so much, loved my team, and even though working in an online remote setting completely, I thrived in it because I had more autonomy. I was able to control my environment. It helped me know what it feels like to be self-sufficient and not really have someone that's micromanaging you, because I had that experience and I didn't like that. So I knew that that was just not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I did have, credentials, and I knew that if I wanted to go back to teaching, I could. But I was like, let's just give this a shot. And I learned that being an academic advisor online was really fun and amazing. And I think SNHU does a really good job of cultivating communities, because even though we're all remote, we would have weekly meetings, we would chit-chat on Teams, we would have drop-in sessions with our department, we would have fun Friday meeting. Like, there was a lot of camaraderie and a lot of work on building that sense of community. Also, I was getting my master's degree, my second master's degree in all of this at University of North Florida, because I thought I wanted to go into communications and marketing instead of academic advising, but soon realized that I rather liked academic advising. But guess what I did? I still finished that master's degree right behind me, baby. I have a master's degree in communication management with a concentration in leadership. However, 3/4 of my leadership classes were educational leadership. So that's really what I did my thesis on in my second master's degree, was educational leadership. So I have a very big passion for education and the arts, and I love that, and I've married that. But all throughout this, I have been missing one puzzle piece, which is my other passion in life, and everybody can probably guess it: health and fitness. Okay, I'm a power lifter. I've competed in powerlifting. I love bodybuilding. I haven't competed in bodybuilding. I've had some injuries, some hormonal limitations, just because it's a very tough sport. I don't know if I'm going to go back to bodybuilding, in all honesty, because it really did impact my mental, physical, emotional, hormonal health, and my knee. I had a little bit of an injury. So I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I still am passionate, so passionate about working out and having a great physique and feeling great in your own body and your own skin. So in all of this, I was also on the side getting my certified personal training certification, again, through ISSA, strength and conditioning certification through ISSA. And literally this week, y'all, I just finished my bodybuilding specialist certification. So I love it. I love health and fitness. And again, I've been coaching on the side. I had a little online thing going, and I liked it, but I didn't take it that seriously, and I wasn't pushing my marketing or anything like that, and I wasn't working full-time at a gym. But until the last couple months, I was like, you know what? I really love personal training. I think I'd be good at it, and I don't have kids yet or anything. I'm going to try to put this into reality. So I applied at some gyms, and I found one near me that was hiring, and now I'm personal training there. I also teach some group fitness classes a couple times a week, and I can tell you guys, oh my goodness, it is my favorite job, my favorite job. It's so awesome, but it did take me time. I didn't quit my 9 to 5 overnight. I started advertising for my online coaching business in February on my social media. And this is where it gets really important because I was also an adjunct professor. I've been an adjunct instructor at SNHU for a year, over a year now, a little bit over a year. So I was doing that on the side, but as an adjunct professor, you don't get paid a full salary because it's part-time and you don't get that many classes, maybe 1 or 2 classes a term, depending on the need. So you can't rely on that for a financial income, right? Total disparity when you're going from a 9 to 5 to just a part-time income. We knew that would happen, me and my husband, or my husband and I knew that would happen. And sorry, grammar is important. And so we looked at everything and I said, hey, I can do this financially if we give it some time, but I have to build up my clientele. What are we comfortable with? And we gave kind of myself, I will say I gave myself, and my husband and I worked really hard. So it's great in all of this. I've had an amazing support system with my husband, my friends, my family. They've all been very supportive because they know that not only do I have the experience and the credentials, but I'm very hardworking and I'm a very passionate person. And when I put things into action or when I say things out loud, I'm not just throwing it out there. I'm coming up with a plan, I'm executing, and I don't quit until I'm happy and proud or I decide this is no longer for me and I pivot. They know that about me, so they're not really concerned about me. I was concerned about me for rightful reasons, right? I've never ever, and I say never ever, but since my starting teaching in 2019, I've never not worked full-time, ever. We all have bills to pay, but more than anything, it's financial stability, it's insurance, it's benefits, it's your 401k and retirement. It's all the things that we need as adults, right? And as you get older, you're like, yeah, that is important. But I made a game plan. So my first game plan was marketing. I'm not going to quit my full-time job yet. I'm just going to get 1 or 2 online clients. I did that. Come March, I was like, all right, that's when I'm going to start putting my feelers out to the local gyms. I applied for some jobs. I got one. Come April, I start teaching just the yoga classes once a week. And I get, let's just say 5 to 10 people. If it's $15 for 5 to 10 people, we could be making upwards of $100 per 1 hour class once a week. Again, none of this is going to keep paying the bills. But when I realized if I can do the math correctly, make a game plan, boom, right? And then my next part was to market myself in the gym. Flyers, business cards, showing yourself in the gym, working at the front desk, or just answering phones, or just being around in the community so that people know you're available. You are a personal trainer. Talking with the owner and the other trainers there, building a community and rapport with everybody. And then after I got one in-person client, and I had one in-person client in April, one online client. Yes, one online client, then 2 in-person clients, and my yoga classes, and that was April. And so beginning April, I was like, all right, well, I don't have the energy to be able to do an academic advisor, group fitness classes, personal train, online fitness, and an adjunct professor. And I just know that when I want to do something well, I don't want to sacrifice my bandwidth because then you'll get burnt out and you'll drop the ball or you'll let somebody down. So that's when I said, all right, I'm going to make a game plan. Come April, I'm going to quit academic advising and do personal training. But even with a couple clients, the math won't math. You're going to still have a pretty big gap in your monthly salary. So that's when I looked for other options. And I said, all right, I'm an adjunct professor. Let's just say I make, like $1,000 something after taxes a month on that. Not enough to live on in this economy. But let's just say I'm doing personal training, group fitness classes. Let's just say I make $1,000 a month off that. Again, not enough to live in this economy. That's $2,000 a month, which is fine, but that's way less than I was making. Full disclosure, I think as an academic advisor, upper 50s, lower 60s, and that's really good for academic advising for online. Again, I do have 2 master's degrees. I do have 5 years of experience in education, but that's really good as an academic advisor. But again, what I wanted to do was, all right, I need another option. So then I saw that this online coaching business was hiring, and I applied and had some interviews. We seemed like a great fit. So then I started working for them on the side. And a lot of these are on the side. This is all part-time jobs. But these part-time jobs are a lot of work. They do, I do have to spend anywhere from like probably 3 to 6 hours a day working on said various jobs, whether I do grading for a couple hours, whether I do online coaching and check-ins or meetings or in-person clients or group fitness classes. But guess what, y'all? And I'm not trying to brag. I'm still building everything. I'm still learning from this online coaching business, from in-person training, my group fitness classes, and adjuncting. I am now working maybe 15 to 20 hours a week, whereas I was working 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 days. And then one Friday I was working like 8 to 12. So I don't know, around 40 hours a week, right? That's standard for HR and stuff. I cut that in half. My salary is not cut in half. It's less, but eventually I'm hoping and building it up that I'm still building my clients, still building in-person group fitness classes, hoping to adjunct more maybe in the future, building my online clients and stuff. But eventually that's what did it for me. So it's May now. It's end of May basically. And I can honestly say this was the best decision because it made me work harder and smarter, but I'm not working as many hours. So I'm no longer as burnt out. But I did have to come up with a game plan, and my husband and I were able to figure out the insurance thing with his job, and that's so important. Please don't neglect that. Please don't put off health insurance just because you can't afford it. Try to figure out a plan. It's so important. And eventually, this is sustainable because if we want to have a kid, which I don't know, but you do need the options because childcare is also an expense, and it's also something else that not everybody wants to afford. And also taking care of a child is very personal. And if you're a stay-at-home mom, that is a job. You are childcare. That's a job, bro. And it's something that I think that I would be really good at, but I want to take very seriously. So I'm trying to learn all my systems before we even go that route. I think this is the most mature decision we could ever have made because now it gives me opportunities to know what I love and at least gives me time to explore my passions before we even think about bringing a baby into the world. Because let's be real, that's a job in itself. You don't know how it's going to go. And it might be harder than you realize or easier than you realize, but at least you have options. And selfishly, I know this is my only probably time I'm going to be able to be as selfish as I can. So I'm making the most of it by exploring my passions so that someday, if and when I have the privilege and opportunity to have a baby, I don't take them for granted or resent that experience because I would have known by that point I am a person. I have established myself. I have tried all these industries and these career options so that I feel confident in not only my identity, but my options once my child is maybe old enough to go to school, right? Or if I decide I want to homeschool. But it just gives you so many options. And these are real world things that we have to think about. And I'm not going to get political here, but there are reasons why, and I'm 30, I think there's reasons, so many reasons why people in their late 20s, 30s, whatever, are not having children. And it is expense. And it is figuring out how are we going to make X and Z, equal Y, because the math is not mathing financially. And also most jobs, 9 to 5, will not let you have your child with you all the time. So you have to wiggle and you have to learn how to figure out other options to work around the 9 to 5, but still make income and still take care of your child, whatever you need. Again, these are just things that I'm thinking about because this is the stage of my life, but everybody is totally different. And I've been a teacher, I've been an academic advisor, I'm now currently a professor and a personal trainer, but I'm also still working on my other creative avenues like projects. Like I want to do a mural for the gym that I'm working in. I want to do murals for Jacksonville. I want to make other art and personal art and graphics and stuff and marketing and social media. And I've done one recipe book. I want to do more, and I'm selling workout plans. And, it just takes time to build everything. And I'm going to get into how I'm building my online coaching business and my personal training in-person business, because that's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other episode for a whole other podcast. Because really, I'm not doing online coaching now for myself because I'm working for another company. I'm only doing in-person coaching, but it still requires systems. You still have to have great systems. So that's probably going to be my next podcast episode, but this is where I am right now. Again, it's taken me a long time to feel confident in my abilities and my skills, my certifications, my education, and my ability to kind of not just live in the moment and trust the process, because that's so, we hear that all the time. But this last part is really what I want you to take home, because it's something that I've been telling myself and I've been joking around with other friends is, even if you have kids or responsibilities or people that rely on you, we are all just here on this floating rock. And I'm going to get hippie for a second, but you have free will. If you are unhappy, hear me loud and proud. You don't have to stay unhappy. You have to get mad and come up with a game plan to get out of whatever you're not happy with anymore. And that's just me being a coach and me being a person that's, not just intelligent, but someone that is a hardworking person that knows that you can't just quit your job, right? And I didn't. I kind of put it into my brain that I want to quit my job by May, but I wasn't sure if that was going to be possible until I started really working at it, applying to other jobs, marketing myself online, and that takes time. And that takes patience and effort. I wouldn't say I put more than 5 hours of work on the side a week into that. So if you can try to find, I would even say just 2 hours a week, dude. 2 hours a week of marketing and social media and building a website, which you can do for free on Canva. Okay, I built mine on Squarespace. It's not free though. Again, you don't even need a website. You just need social media and ability to use apps or market yourself at a gym or something like that, because there's so much out there. Oh my goodness. And if you are a personal trainer and you don't have a website and you don't want to pay for that, look into these two applications, Everfit or Trainerize. They're both fantastic and they're not free, but they're pretty cheap. I want to say they're like $19 a month and I like them. I'm using Everfit right now. So yeah. All right. Well, we've gone a little bit long today, but I had a lot on my heart that I really wanted to share with you. I had a script, kind of went off the script, but my last thing that I want to say is if you have any questions for me, or if you want to form a dialogue or conversation, or even come on the podcast, just send me a DM, okay? My Instagram is at Powerful Hippie, and I check my DMs every single day. I do not leave people on red. Sometimes my DMs are funky. If for some reason I'm not following you or it goes into my spam or something, I'm sorry. I try to check them, but if that's why, that might be why. But there should be another option to send me an email. It's just haley.powerfulhippie@gmail.com. Again, let me know if you have any questions or you want to discuss anything, or if you're interested in in-person personal training. I got you. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was a lot of information. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following on my journey. I'm just trying to help you be the best version of yourself. And I want you to learn from my mistakes and my experiences. And I wouldn't say any of these, by the way, are mistakes. They're just experiences. And I've learned so much. And I'm just so grateful. And yeah. So again, thank you all so much. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.